Blessings, everyone. This is Jules, and this is the Activate Evolution podcast. And today is our Ask Jules podcast. So I do have our beautiful community with us. And so just know that we're going to move into just kind of our topic today, and then we're going to open it up to the community to ask questions and just go deeper into what the share is today. And I thought this morning, or I guess it was yesterday morning before I created the email for today, of what was trying to come in to to share with everybody. And immediately I got to talk about what DMT is and to do a pineal gland activation with the DMT as well, and why that's important and how we can start using it to accelerate or advance our ascension process. So, ascension both through consciousness, but even more importantly, through cellular intelligence, because now more than ever, we want to awaken DNA and intelligence. That this We're at this pivotal point where it's time to bring the body with us. And so often we talk about how we can move into really high states of consciousness and we can go to all these amazing places consciously. But in all of that, we're forgetting about the body. It's our body has the ability to go there too. And a lot of times you guys will hear me say that we're only using about 10% of our body's potential, or 10% of our DNA, 10% of the synapse responses that have the capability of holding consciousness, even in our mind, but also in our heart. So we hear a lot about the mind and about consciousness, but we don't hear a lot about where consciousness is actually being held. And that's what I want to start with before we go into talking more about the DMT and the pineal gland. I did the speech out in LA, and when I was writing out the speech, I was getting a few messages about really what consciousness is. And what came through loud and clear is that consciousness is our tool. Consciousness is the tool that we use while we are attuning to the intelligence that's stored in the DNA. Once we are fully attuned to that intelligence, and that intelligence is our innate being, it's who we are. But because we are in a reality that is created through observation, we are literally observing the very intelligence that we are. And until we fully merge with that intelligence and become that intelligence, we will use consciousness to do so. So, depending on where we are and how high of a frequency our consciousness can actually be held in, will be how much of that intelligence we're able to express, understand, hold the information of. But where is that intelligence coming from? The intelligence is encoded in our DNA. And a lot of you have heard my story about veil, but I'm going to go ahead and just say it again because it is very profound. But I'm going to back it up just a little bit with where all of this started. So back into 2015, my friend Rob passed away. And before he passed away, we had this agreement that we would continue to collaborate. We would continue to ascend together because that was what our relationship was about. It was about ascending. And that's exactly what we did. When he passed away, I continued to follow him consciously. So I chose to connect to his frequency and continue our relationship. And as we did that, he started giving me information. And at the time, I just started writing things down. I'm just going to write things down. I'm going to write things down. I'm going to write things down. And it was probably over about an 8-month period after he passed away. I wrote every single day, whatever came through. And with that, I ended up writing my first book. And the first part of my book is about dissolving the chakra system. It's about bringing all of the energy body and everything that's connected to that into what in my book I call it the God particle, or the first particle of existence. Now, being where I am now, it's really what I was talking about is our innate being. It's the pure source intelligence. There's only one frequency, and that is pure source intelligence. And that frequency we all hold, and it is encoded in our DNA. About a year ago, another friend of mine passed away, a friend of our family's. He died on his 22nd birthday. And I can just feel him. I'm getting chills. So he came to me a couple of weeks after he passed away. And the first thing he said is, it's not supposed to be this way. We're not supposed to die. And I knew what he was saying was true because of all of the work that we've been doing on all the coding of our DNA and awakening of this intelligence and how we're turning everything inside out. But he showed it to me in a very specific way. And he showed me how it's a looping cycle. And the looping cycle that he showed me was actually on the flower of life. Well, this brings you back to my book, the first book that I ever created. Every single activation disintegrated the flower of life and brought it into one frequency, the God particle, the first particle of existence, or source intelligence. And the same exact message is what Vale gave me. And that was a really profound moment for me. But he took it a step further. He showed me that DMT, the chemical that is released from the pineal gland when we die and when we are born. So when we're born, that frequency is released on a chemical level into the body. But that same chemical has a frequency. And that frequency holds 100% source intelligence, or 100% human potential. And that frequency, when it's released through both the chemical and the frequency when we are born, is downloaded into our DNA. And then he showed me that our cells, our body, everything that is in our body, we have electrons, and these electrons hold consciousness. So when we pass away, that same chemical is released and the same frequency is released. And when it releases, it's taken out of the DNA and it's brought out of the physical body. And the electrons leave the body with it, meaning that our consciousness merges with the frequency of DMT and we become source intelligence again. But what he was showing me is that we don't actually have to die in order to move consciousness into the DMT, or the frequency of source intelligence. And that's what I want to do today, is do this DMT activation through the pineal gland, because the pineal gland has an ascended cell in it. The ascended cell, this one cell, is connected to every cell of your body. And so when we start to work with the ascended cell, we work with every cell of the body, and we start to turn on these codes so that we can all experience what we came here to experience. And that is 100% divine intelligence in physical form. And a lot of it, a lot of this is maybe a little mind-blowing, or it may be a little hard to fully grasp everything that's being taught here or that's being said. But I say that that's a good thing. I have a saying that's like, let's activate 100% human potential and then let science catch up with it. Like, why do we have to wait for something to be proven? And because the thing is, you guys, it's not going to be. We're going to prove it because the only way to activate 100% human potential is to become the expression of an intelligence beyond observation. So if we are looking in the quantum field, if we are looking within the matrix and we are in observation of what we think that we're capable of becoming, we're doing it wrong. Because observation creates timelines, observation is programmed, and observation is the very looping cycle that we're trying to break free from. So, how do we exist beyond observation? We become the intelligence that's stored in the DNA. So we call DMT divine molecular technology. We literally become the divine frequency patterns, a system that's holding an intelligence to where consciousness and this divine intelligence become one. And we do have the ability of doing this. And I think enough of us are starting to have this experience that if we need to have some proof, we're doing it. And I see, I can see some of your faces, and I know that some of you are doing it because I can see it in you. And one of the first things that we start to notice is we start to glow. Right? That intelligence starts to turn on, and that system starts to override what we would consider physical, and we start to see beyond that. So that's what I want to just invite you all into, is when you're seeing yourself in your own reflection, challenge yourself to see beyond what you're seeing in the mirror and start seeing that intelligence that's turning on inside of you. You're literally teaching yourself to see beyond what we're seeing, beyond the form, and start to ask, what does it feel like? What do I see when I see as the intelligence? What's different? How do I see my reality different? How do I see the room that I'm sitting in differently? Because all of those things are going to start to open you up to the intelligence that it's ready. It's ready to turn on, and it's ready to change everything. Life will never be the same when we start to truly bring consciousness into the intelligence of our innate being, the truth of who we are. Let me just see if there's anything else that wants to be said before we move into the other fun kind of catchphrase, I guess is what's coming to me, that we're putting with DMT is decoded molecular technology, meaning we are literally decoding the DNA, those codes that are laying dormant, and we're turning them on. And it doesn't have to be hard to do this. It's not hard. It's just, where are we putting our attention and our focus? All right, so let's go ahead and do the DMT pineal gland activation, and then we'll open it to discussion because I think this is going to be a really fun one. So if you'd like to place your hands on your heart, I'm going to invite you to do that. If you want to shut your eyes, and we'll start by attuning the body. So breathing in a white blue light, allowing this light to trace along the brain and move down through the spine, and then coming out through the mouth. And in the next breath, allowing that light to move along the brain and down through the spine, and then letting it enter your heart space, allowing the light to enter into your bloodstream, and just feeling it as it enters the bloodstream, how it ascends the blood, raising the frequency of the body. And now bringing your attention to the center of your physical brain. And in the center of the brain, you seeing a tiny little white blue light. Allow your consciousness and your thoughts to enter this light. And as your consciousness enters the light, you're going to use your consciousness to push the light out so it's encompassing your entire physical brain. Just notice that when that happens, everything goes still. You've created a 0 point, for this light holds source intelligence. It allows your consciousness to merge with the light and become one. Just preparing both the heart and the mind and the body to move into the frequency of source intelligence. And now we'll move into the pineal gland, into the ascended cell. And as we work with the ascended DNA to activate the divine codes, releasing DMT into the body, so we'll bring our consciousness into that white blue light right behind the DNA, allowing the expression of source in connection with DMT to be released. And as it begins to release, just witness, experience as this beautiful light moves through the double helix, turning on the divine codes of 100% human potential. And as this is activated, it moves into the energy centers of the mind, activating electric responses, allowing consciousness to be held within this intelligence. And as every single cell of your entire body is activated, experiencing the electrons of the cells begin to release with this beautiful DMT frequency. Just notice how they each have their own frequency, but they're working together. And as these frequencies are released into the body, the H3O2 create electric responses, firing, connecting the electrons to DMT or source intelligence, creating a system, a technology that holds this intelligence. It's an intelligence for your body to identify within. Your consciousness, source intelligence, creating a system for you to identify within. Just seeing yourself light up like that white blue light, creating a grid system, your ascended ionic grid. Now, having the experience of bringing your thoughts or your consciousness into this grid, just noticing what it feels like to identify within this light grid beyond your physical form. And notice how you have the ability to hold consciousness in this light, in this grid or system. Just take a moment to know yourself as 100% potential within this system. In this system, everything that you need to know is right there. You can see it just like Googling. It's all you have to do is ask for a certain frequency to come up, connect your consciousness to it, and everything you need to know is within your system. Now just allowing yourself to take in a deep breath. And if there's any part of your body that you're feeling pain, if there's any worries that you're having, or even if there's something that you're wanting to manifest, bring it into the system. Just see whatever it is, that thought, that part of your body. Allow it to merge into this beautiful light system that's holding 100% source intelligence. And just have the experience of what it feels like to have either your body, your thoughts, your dreams merge with this intelligence, become this intelligence. How empowering it feels to know that everything that you need is right there inside of you. And then before you open your eyes, just taking a moment to one more time connect into this intelligence and choose from this moment to see through this intelligence, to have thought through this intelligence. That every movement that you make is as the intelligence, surrendering, programming, and becoming 100% source intelligence. And now just taking one more deep breath, and when you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes. And we'll open it up to the community for discussion or reflection. Oh, I just looked down and this is giving me major chills. I just looked down and we have exactly 33 people. And 33 is the number of pure source expression. It's the mastery. It's 100%. So that just gives me chills. You guys, this is what we're becoming. It's 1 to 33 now. It's 1 to 33. As soon as we have the information, we turn it into 100% human potential. And we just do it over and over and over and over, because that potential becomes source intelligence. All right. So you can either just unmute yourself and ask a question if you want to raise your hand. I won't be able to see everybody, so I'm not going to be able to see everybody if they're holding their hands up. So you can also hold your hand up just within the Zoom call as well. Okay, does anybody have a question or want to share their experience of the activation? Kathy?
I just felt everything just lock in at this point. This activation really locked it in for me. And I feel it. It's amazing. I don't know what else to say because I just feel so solid.
That's giving me chills too. Thank you for sharing. It can be. I'm just curious. Let's see. Let me feel into this. Yeah, we're all going to have our own timing when consciousness meets this intelligence. And we're all going to have little times where we think we get it, and then all of a sudden we don't get it anymore. And that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. We want that to keep happening, because every time that we self-actualize within the intelligence, we know there's always going to be more. And so we do want to release it and then let ourselves keep going. But so when I hear you speaking, Kathy, I feel how grounded you are in the experience of it. And so it's not, this is what I'm just getting, and you can tell me whether this is correct or not. You've moved beyond identifying in it, and now it's just experiencing it. So there's no identifying anymore.
Correct.
Yeah, chills. Love it. Thank you. Okay, so Martine, is it? You have your hand up, honey.
Hi. Hi, Joel.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Yeah, so I get it. So, yeah, my question is like, whenever I'm doing an activation, it's like my mind cannot focus. I'm wondering if there's a block somewhere. I started really well with the activation. I felt the energy, and then all of a sudden my mind goes somewhere else.
That's actually not unusual. And this is why, this is what happens, is that when your body starts to hold a frequency that your consciousness can't connect to, it'll either go into a place where it actively wants to think about other stuff, or it'll just cut out. A lot of times people actually fall asleep because their consciousness can't hold the frequency, and so it just knocks them out so that their body can actually activate, knowing that consciousness is going to be the last thing that's going to catch up, right? So just know that this is normal and it's okay. Don't judge it, because your body is the one that's turning on, and then over time your consciousness will catch up.
Okay, very good. Thank
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see if there's anything else with that that would be important. It's such a fun thing when consciousness does catch up to the code, the intelligence that's turning on within us. We talk a lot about what that is, but until it actually happens, you can't really put words to it. It's when it does, though, you know it. You're very, very aware, because all of a sudden you understand the difference between observation. Ooh,
you.
between observation and expression. And that's kind of a hard thing. Like, how do we live if we're not observing? And how can we hold consciousness? How can we exist without observing? And you can, and then we're proving it. And that's what's so exciting. And when that happens is when consciousness starts to hit the intelligence, and we start to actually understand what that means.
Yeah. I cannot wait to get there.
You will, honey. I promise. If you keep going, I promise you will. I promise you will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Denise.
I've been tuning in as I've been driving, and the thought that keeps coming into my mind is how we want to stay in abstract so that we're not allowing our programming to interfere with what's coming in. And as you're talking about sort of consciousness, as we become more conscious, then we can consciously choose what direction we want to go in. But then staying in abstract enough to let it come in without trying to recreate what's already been created.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that the easiest way to keep you really in the clear of, oh my gosh, where am I, is knowing what level of consciousness you're in. So if you're in that fourth or fifth level of consciousness, you're golden, because otherwise it is going to be kind of creating more in that third level or programming. But I am going to say that when we really start to step more and more into the intelligence is more when we can actually start playing and programming. And one of the best ways that, like one of the last ones that I just did that I actually had a lot of fun with, but now I'm like over it. But it was a lot of fun when it first came to me, was breaking the spiritual laws, the 12 spiritual laws, because what I realized is that they're not true, because they were created in observation of the very looping cycle we're trying to break, right? But it's programming. But what I was able to do though was see that the program was there, and then step into the intelligence of source frequency and see what they are through the intelligence. So that's how we can start playing with our own programming. And, even with like DQ and ohm codes, that's why it's so valuable to learn DQ, because we're learning where our loops are within our own programming. And then we're learning how to turn on source codes and how to hold the expression of it. So as long as you're aware, Denise, of, am I in a looping cycle, meaning am I observing a program? And once I'm aware that I'm doing that, whether it's your own programming, universal programming, whatever it is, then we turn on the codes and we step into the codes or the frequency of the expression of the divine. And even if we're in observation of what that expression is, at least we're observing a frequency beyond the matrix than the programming of the matrix. And the more that we observe it, yes, we're going to be creating timelines within that, but at least we're in creation as the creator at that point, even if we're in observation that we're doing that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's all, I mean, this is like where really right where you asked that question from is the bridge of gamifying reality. Because the truth is we are in this reality and we're still going to be using observation. But now that we are so conscious of what we're doing, it gets really fun, because then we start to use everything that's in observation, even the spiritual laws, that we have the ability to shift those and bring it into one frequency, source intelligence. And that's a lot of fun to do. Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, I love what you said too about gamifying reality, because whenever we can just look at it and just see it for the illusion that it is, it is laughable, especially when we allow ourselves to get all wrapped around the axle about what we think it means, which is all in programming, none of which is true. So, yeah.
It really is. And this is this place now that we're all kind of holding this frequency right now, is what am I willing to surrender, and what am I still holding on to? What part of my life am I willing to surrender into this intelligence? Whether that's my finances, it's my body, my health, my mind, my business, whatever it is. What am I willing to surrender? But what is the one part in my life that I'm still holding on to, that I feel as though my own programming is more relevant than the source intelligence that's turning on inside of me? And just being really honest about that, right? It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it, but at least we know we're doing it. And then it starts to break down all the programs that are around that, because we're more willing to look at it in a way of self-discovery, and even being able to look at it going, okay, well, right now I feel like my programming is more relevant than source intelligence around this one area, but I'm going to keep looking at my programming, knowing that the intelligence is going to start to show me what it is beyond that, because I'm willing to look at it. And that's really when we start to master what it is to exist within a programmed reality as an intelligence beyond that. Very fun. Anybody else have a share? Thank you for bringing that up, Denise. Does anybody else have a share or a question that they would like to bring forth? And if you're raising your hand and I'm not seeing you, it's because I cannot see you. So you're welcome to just unmute yourself.
Boon Jan has her hand raised.
Okay, beautiful. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, this may just really relate to what you just said, but as I felt the DMT releasing, I suddenly felt like I'm not going to have any excuses to be lazy if I'm 100%. And I kind of enjoy my laziness, and the fact that people consider me to be 83 years old, and so I can be lazy. Do you want to talk about that at all? I mean, I know it's funny, but it's still cool,
I actually love this. I don't know if Sandy's on right now, but Sandy's actually 87, and she is one of our stars, one of our star peoples, because she is, gosh, that girl, she's dynamite. But this is what I'm going to say about that. This is one of those things that you can look at is like, where am I choosing to be lazy? But and it doesn't mean that you're really being lazy. It could be that, you know what, I'm just really enjoying myself without having a whole lot to do. And I'm just going to give myself permission to not have to go all the time. But having said that, if this is me, where I would be like, okay, where in my life am I using the distraction of laziness to not step into the intelligence that's turning on inside of me? Or where am I choosing to be lazy over divine discipline, and really saying yes to the divine guidance within me? Because it doesn't have to be hard. It's either we're listening to programming, we're choosing programmed reality, or we're not. Well, what's the other side? What is I'm not? It's listening to the intelligence or divine guidance and saying yes to that. And so maybe instead of seeing it as, oh, I'm going to be lazy or I'm going to be this, maybe the question is, am I listening to divine guidance or am I not? And then the choice becomes really clear. It's like, okay, I'm not right now. And if I'm choosing not to, at least being really honest with myself on why. I'm choosing not to listen to divine guidance right now because I want to sit on the couch and watch a show. Or I'm not choosing not to because I just really want to tune out and not have to do anything. At least you're being honest about it, right? And then what will probably happen is the more honest you get with it and the more you're really aware of what you're choosing and why, you're going to get tired of choosing the things that aren't serving you. And the more that you start to say yes to that divine guidance and yes to that intelligence that's turning on inside you, the more energy you have, the more clarity you have, the better you feel. And you start to realize that age isn't even a thing and that you have the capability of doing anything. And is that something that's important to you? And if it is, then I would say, go for it, girl. But then also giving yourself a break of when you're like, you know what, I'm just really tired. I don't want to do it right now. There's nothing wrong with that. We all have our moments where we just need to, sometimes listening to divine guidance is to do nothing. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have anything they want to piggyback on that or another question that is coming through? Okay, so where do we go from here? We all, in this moment, if it feels important to you to discover who you are at 100% potential, follow that. Follow the guidance that has just been activated inside of you. And be okay that you don't really know how to do that right now. The best thing that you can do is just self-discover. Self-discover, who am I? as this system of intelligence? Like, who am I as this divine intelligence starts to get stronger and stronger and stronger in me? And I can start to actually see myself as a divine technology, as this grid system that is holding my consciousness and technology together, the source intelligence together in one system. What does that mean? Who am I? Am I in this place? Using reflection of reality to show you just how powerful that place is. You don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to understand it. Is all you have to do is keep being willing to explore it, be curious about it, have fun with it, because it will show you what it is. Because honestly, your consciousness will be the last thing that understands it. So the more that we can just be curious and let it lead the way, the better off we are. All right, my lovelies. Well, this has been so much fun. And for those of you that are tuning in and listening, thank you for joining us. And if you want to learn more, go to activateevolution.com. And we hope to see you next month on Ask Jules.